Welcome back, my friends. In this video, we're going to be taking a closer look at the fundamentals of programming. More specifically, we're going to be learning about variables. As you might have guessed, programming involves working with a lot of information or data. Working with data is so common, we need a convenient way of storing and manipulating this data. We can use something called a variable to store some specific information and easily manipulate it at some later time. Let's say, for example, that we wanted to customize this greeting we've got here. Maybe we're not saying hello to just the world, but we're greeting anyone that uses our program. We could simply type their name inside of this print statement right here and replace world with John or something. But we would have to do that for every single person that uses our program. So instead, let's create a variable that stores the name of the person we're greeting. The first thing you need to do when creating a variable is decide what this variable is going to be called. Whoever is using our program is technically our user, so let's call this variable user. So we're going to start a new line, and this actually has to come before the print statement that we're going to use the variable in. So we're going to create a new line above our print statements. All right, so let's call this variable user. I'm going to type user here. After the name of the variable, we're going to type an equal sign. And after the equal sign, we're going to type in the actual data that we want to store inside of this variable. We use quotation marks to tell the program that we're going to be storing text inside of this variable. And I'll just use my own name for now. All right, that's it. This line we've got here is creating a variable called user. It's storing some text inside of it, and that text happens to be my name. Awesome, we created a variable, but it's not very useful at the moment. So let's actually use the variable to customize our greeting. Remember that anything inside the parentheses here is going to print out to the console. We want to replace John with our variable, so let's delete this. And I'm going to replace it with the name of our variable. So just type in user. Since it's a variable and not text, we're not going to put quotation marks around it. Let's save this and see what happens when we run it. All right, as you can see down here in the console, it printed out the data that was stored inside of the variable. Since we have two separate print statements, it printed out on two separate lines. Now, maybe we want to print out the greeting on just one line. Let's see how we would do that. So let's delete this line down here. And on this line, we're going to add a plus. And after that plus sign, we're going to add the name of our variable. Save this, run it again. And as you can see down here, it's all on one line now. But the print statement is very specific. So since there's no space after the exclamation mark here, there's no space in our output. So this looks a little weird. Let's try to fix this up a little bit. Let's get rid of this exclamation mark here. Let's add a space to make sure there's a space between these two words. And now we want an exclamation mark after the name of our user, right? So we can just keep adding plus signs here. As many plus signs as we want, we can print out as much as we want in this one print statement. Add an exclamation mark and quotation marks. Save this, run it again. And that looks a little better now. We've got hello space name of our user and an exclamation mark all on one line. All right, maybe we also want to say goodbye to our user. So let's create another print statement, same as this other one, but it's going to say goodbye instead of hello. We can use the same variable as many times as we want. Every time the computer sees this variable inside of a print statement, it's going to replace it with the data inside the variable. Oh, I forgot a plus sign here. There we go. Save and run it. And as you can see, it printed it out twice. So we can use the same variable as many times as we want. Every time the computer sees this variable inside of a print statement, it's going to replace it with the data that's stored inside of it, which in this case is our user's name. Now let's say that we've somehow obtained our user's last name in the middle of our program. The data stored in our variable can be manipulated, so we won't have to create a new variable just to store their last name. We can update our existing variable. Let me just write this out and I'll explain it afterwards. All right, so what we're doing here is taking the previously existing data inside of our user variable and adding some text to it. We're going to take all of that and place it in our variable. Whatever data was in this variable before is being replaced with everything that's to the right of this equal sign. So if we run this, you can see that the variable contains both a first and last name after this line, but it's missing a space. So let's add this here, run it again. That looks a little better. All right, that's the basics of variables. They have a name, also called an identifier. We can store data inside this variable, and this data can be manipulated. Right now, this data is just whatever I, as the programmer, have typed in here. In the next video, we'll find out how to have the user input their own name. I hope you learned something, and please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if this video was helpful to you.